Hey there, it's Lucas Catton, and I wanted to talk about how difficult it can be when you are misunderstood sometimes. Especially when you are doing something in earnest, or if you really want someone to understand what it is that you're doing or what it is that you're saying or the reason or intent behind something and things like that, and it's not landing on the other end for whatever reason, and this can hurt, especially when we experience it a lot, like if we often feel like people don't understand us. I don't know about you, but I know there have been many times throughout my life, including now, where I feel that either someone or groups of people or whatever just aren't understanding, and that can be frustrating. It can be really frustrating, and sometimes it can be really hurtful. Think about as a kid, for example, when kids are trying to, let's say, describe something and they don't know the words yet for that thing, and they get really frustrated because maybe as parents or adults we're not understanding what it is that they're saying, and sort of like, you mean the this thing, and they go no, and they just get so frustrated over wanting to be able to communicate something and it not being understood, or them not being understood, or they act out in a certain situation because of something that happened, and people don't understand why it is that they did that, but they wish they could tell them and they're not sure how. Well, this carries on into certainly adolescence and adulthood as well, and there's plenty of times where you really want to be understood, and when there are people who are close to us who don't understand us, it can be even that much more painful to deal with. Whether it's a close friend or a family member or some other loved one, a coworker, things like that, where where you really want them to understand either your point or where you're coming from, or again, your intent behind what it is that you're doing or saying or asking, or those types of things. We especially see this obviously in things like religion and politics and health situations and stuff like that, things that are more generally charged conversations, but it can go in so many other ways as well. And I think that there are ways in which we can do our best to try and convey what it is that we're talking about. Because, for example, another way that commonly happens nowadays is via text. Text messages, you say something, somebody takes it completely the wrong way because they just have some shortened version of words, or it's a quick response, and maybe somebody's in the middle of something and they don't have time to text, but they take the time to go ahead and text something, and then on the other end you're like, what on earth are they saying, or why did they say that, or what does that mean, and you start jumping to conclusions. And I'm guilty of that all the time, and I try and be aware of that hey, I can't just automatically assume something without getting the full story. Like, what else is going on behind there? What was going on at the time? What was that person having to deal with, or what were they feeling at the time, or again, what was the intent behind what it is that they said. So finding out some of those things are very key in my book. And even in emails or other messages, still written word, even if there's a lot of it, it can't always really convey the feeling as an in-person conversation would. If you can do it via Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, that's helpful. If you can't be in the same room at the same time, now or any other time, but really being in the person, because you can also then feel that, like, the energy that the person is giving off. Like, are they saying one thing and putting on a good show, but yet they feel really different being around them, or are they maybe saying something that's a little bit off, but they feel really warm and caring, and so, oh, okay, well, maybe that wasn't the right word, or maybe it was a little awkward, but you can tell that their intent was very good, or that there was a good purpose behind it. So I talked in a video maybe a couple years ago about a book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, that had been recommended to me, and I read it, and it's actually very good. And I fail to use the principles in here a lot when doing that. And there's actually set up, if you go to cnvc.org, I think it's the Center for Nonviolent Communication, and was created by him and surrounding the book. And it's really about how to be more understood and how to make sure that you are understanding others. And a lot of that is, first of all, not jumping to conclusions, to very calmly restate a question, like say, here's what I heard you say, and then you restate that, what it is that they said, and then you can ask a question beyond that, like what does this mean to you, or how can you state something to where it doesn't automatically put someone in a position where they think that you're calling them out, or they think that you're accusing them of something, or they think that you're not being considerate of their feelings, or however these types of communications can be misinterpreted or misrepresented. So I think, I'm certainly going to dive back into this some more. Go to cnvc.org and, pull out the book again as well and read through and really figure out how to be able to be more understood and how to understand others better in communicating. Unfortunately, there are times where it's not always possible for that to happen. And despite your attempts, despite honest, relaying of information, or despite, trying to explain, it's still not being received. Sometimes people don't want to know. They don't want to actually understand you. And that can be frustrating and hurtful as well, when they're just, they've already drawn their conclusions of you, and there's really nothing that you can do to try and convince them otherwise. And so at some point, it's only just going to aggravate you more to keep on trying to explain, or trying to be understood, or try to be, continue to want that understanding. And there comes a time where we do have to let that part go. We do have to let that part go. And, sometimes it is understanding that we can't always be responsible for the other person on the other end of things. And so if you maybe accidentally upset someone and you've tried to explain or tried to make it better or tried to do something else like that, and the person just isn't having it, then you can't continue to be responsible for them being upset. It's, you can do your best and try, if you did actually do something to hurt them, try and fix it, that sort of thing, or maybe it was unintentional and there's nothing you can do to go back to it. There's all kind of different circumstances, but if it's not possible, or the person is unwilling to allow you, if they're unwilling to want to understand, then there has to be, again, that time where you have to let that particular thing go, possibly let that situation go, let that, sometimes let the person go. There's, and be there for them if and when they're ready to come around, and, do your best in that part. So I know right now there's quite a few things that people are dealing with that are heavy, and I know that when I'm misunderstood, it is difficult for me to want to explain more. And that's part of the reason why I do, these videos, for example, is because I'm coming up with things that I'm coming across or I'm experiencing, and I'm trying to share them. And much of it is me trying to work it out in my head. And so being able to talk about it, whether or not anybody's really listening. I mean, certainly you need someone to listen, but find other outlets too. Journaling, find someone else you can talk with. That is always helpful. As I mentioned in the last one, I said an empathetic listener, but it's an empathetic witness, someone who can listen, someone who can ask questions and be there and listen and try and understand you. And having someone, sometimes just anyone, really understand where you're coming from and what it is that you're saying can be so helpful and so beneficial. If you find yourself in that situation and you need someone to talk to, if there is no one else around, or you would just like to have a conversation or anything like that, please reach out. I enjoy connecting with people. I enjoy having conversations about different things and explaining things and receiving things and more of that, deeper connection on deeper topics. And, I certainly would like to be that person for as many people as I can and be able to share outwardly as well. So hit me up anytime, lucascatton.com. I hope you're well, stay safe, take care. And enjoy the spring that's coming, and the warmer weather and the more sunshine and all that stuff. So unless you're in Colorado, because you had a ton of snow the last day, but other than that, be well. We'll talk soon. Thanks.